is we're going to go ahead and get started. We'll see if people kind of pop through. If you have questions throughout this, feel free to drop them in the chat. I actually have the chat window up, but I'm also usually pretty bad at looking at it. So if you post a question and I keep going into new slides and not answering it, like feel free to just unmute and pop in. We don't have so many people in here that you can't just unmute and ask a question. But basically, we're here to talk about how to make $200,000 in GCI this year using just Facebook ads, right? And if you're outside of the Bay Area, let's, instead of saying 200,000 GCI, let's say sell 8 houses, right? Like I started my career up in Sacramento. I get it. It's a different price point, but this all still kind of works the same. There's going to be some numbers that'll be a little bit different, but for the most part, just think, how can I, for a lot of people, doing 8 units might be doubling their business. Maybe they did 8 units last year, and if we could do 8 more, maybe that's doubling it. But even if you did like 32 units last year and we say how to do 8 more units, like that's 25% increase. That's pretty good pop. So we're going to go, whoops, see if I can actually get to my slides. So using the power of Facebook ads, there's a lot of different ways to do this, right? You could do Facebook, you could do Google. This is specifically about Facebook though. As I was kind of telling Derek earlier, this isn't going to be specifically about KW Command. This isn't KW. This is really big Facebook, specifically in real estate and specifically in the Bay Area, but it can kind of be applied everywhere, as I mentioned. So just as a quick disclaimer, because I'll always kind of get people being, well, what about this? What about this? This is more like, think of this as like a game plan, right? We're not going to talk about, I'm not going to like sit here and walk you through how to build the actual ads. I do have some videos about that on YouTube. If you go subscribe to my little email newsletter right there, bit.ly/Jason the Flynn email, I'll send out those every now and then saying, hey, here's a new video that I did. I don't spam that email like at all. I hardly ever send anything, honestly. I should send more. But this is more of a broader stroke game plan about how Facebook ads can work in real estate. Like I've mentioned a couple times, these examples are specifically for the San Francisco Bay Area, and this isn't theory. Well, it is a theory, but we're actually executing this with a few different people. I've worked with agents, both when I was working on it as an agent and as a team leader, kind of showing them how to do this. So although I haven't necessarily generated all these specifically for myself, I'm helping agents kind of build these on their own. But then this is the key part. We're going to mention this a few times. You can generate all the leads that you want, but if we're not following up with them, it doesn't matter. And then it's also a waste of money. So if you don't plan on following up, if you don't plan on fully executing this, like just don't start. Like go do something else. You'll be a lot happier. Otherwise, I mean, I'm telling you, I get things all the time. Oh, Facebook ads don't work. Well, yeah, because they're not doing the appropriate amount of follow-up, which we'll kind of talk about that as we go on, what the appropriate amount might look like for internet leads. So a little bit about me, because usually I know a lot of people on these, but I don't know everyone on here. So I'm Jason Flynn. I am the team leader at Keller Williams in Fremont. If you're not with Keller Williams, really all that means is office manager or business development manager. We can kind of come up with all these titles, but basically I run the office at the KW in Fremont. Before I got into this in 2020, I had sold real estate for about 5 years, started up in Sacramento, but then I also sold some down here in the Santa Cruz market. But now my job is helping agents build businesses worth owning. And one of my favorite ways to do that is through digital marketing. I have a master's in digital marketing that I finished up right as COVID kicked off, which was a really great time to do that. But so I just love everything about Facebook, about Google. How do we use these tools now? Because they're still really powerful tools that we could be using. And that's something that we get a lot, right? Is that, oh, I heard Facebook ads are dead. It's just about every year or maybe every 2 years, something seems to come out saying like, oh, Facebook ads, like I heard the FTC is going after Facebook, or the SEC, or all these government organizations, or didn't you hear Apple, like Raise your hand if you have an iPhone, right? Like, I heard Apple made it so that Facebook ads are completely ineffective now. Well, let's talk about that. So these, I think I could probably, I don't know if I can get the fourth quarter numbers yet, but at least as of the third quarter in 2021, Facebook had 1.93 billion daily active users. So we figure there's about, was it 7.5 billion people on the planet, I think? Call it seven, somewhere between seven and eight. Well, 1.93 billion of them logged into Facebook every single day, right? So we're talking like a third to a quarter of the entire planet logs in every single day, right? So the eyeballs are there. Facebook only sells one product, right? Well, now, okay, this was, I also put this together before the whole metaverse thing, but they really, for the most part, sell one product, and that's advertising, right? So when you're sitting there scrolling through looking at cat videos and you see those ads pop up every now and then, that's what Facebook is selling, right? I, as an advertiser, pay Facebook to put that ad in front of who we hope is the right person, right? So then that person will click on it. Well, in the third quarter alone, Facebook sold $28 billion of those ads. So if I'm a major corporation like Coca-Cola, Ford, Chevy, like all those big companies, they're spending literally millions of dollars a year in Facebook ads. Do you think they work? Right? Like, they wouldn't be spending that money if the ads didn't work, right? Like, they're a little bit smarter than that with their money, or at least so we hope. So I kind of see it, if those companies still trust in Facebook to get the job done, then why shouldn't we? Now, I'm not going to go spend, I'm not even going to go spend $100,000 on ads. Although, as like kind of a side note, I heard, I'm not going to use their name, I guess, but there is someone in the real estate industry, not necessarily an agent, but I know someone in the real estate industry spending $300,000 per month on advertising. Now, that may not be every month, but it's in at least several of the months in a year that they're spending that on just Facebook ads, because it's getting in front of the people that they know they need to get in front of for their business. But anyway, so I'm still a huge Facebook fan. There is Google, right? We know Google ads. Love those as well. It's kind of a different game, a different beast. Facebook's a lot easier, a little bit more plug and play, where you just say, this is what I want, and kind of Facebook does the rest for you. Whereas Google gets a little bit fancier, gets a little bit more expensive, but it has a higher quality lead, right? And we are going to talk about what kind of leads you're getting through Facebook, and kind of the expectations you should have around those. So if you're unfamiliar with how Facebook ads work, and like if you've taken my classes before, I bring up this slide kind of a lot. So I apologize to you, but for other people that haven't seen this yet, basically, we're going to create an ad. It's actually not going to look like that at all, but essentially, we create an ad, and Facebook, for the most part, decides who to target that ad with. Now, we have some say over who it's going to go to. Like, maybe we can help Facebook understand, I wrote this ad, I want it to this group of people, and that's actually an area where several years ago, real estate agents were actually getting in quite a bit of trouble over that. So Facebook got sued by the government to make sure we can't get too specific, because at one point we could take a Facebook ad and say, I only want this little neighborhood, and I only want people with a FICO above 720, and if their income is above $150,000 a year. Well, that's a real easy way to discriminate, right? Like, if I'm only putting my ads in front of certain groups of people, you run into equal housing problems. But anyways, for the most part, we just allow Facebook to figure out who to put that ad in front of. Because, like, how many times have you been talking to someone about something and then you see an ad for that, right? Like, you're in the kitchen making your toast in the morning, and you're like, damn, my toaster broke. And then all of a sudden you saw an ad for a toaster, right? It's super creepy how that works. And there's always a lot of talk. Is Facebook listening to you? What are they scanning? Is the microphone on? Like, how is this happening? And what's almost even creepier is that they're probably not actually listening to you, that they're just that good. Like, the algorithm has become that good. But there are some things, like if you're using Facebook Messenger, yeah, it's looking at that to figure out what kind of ads you're going to want. So we trust Facebook to get the ad in front of the right person. And when that user we're not going to call them a lead yet, right? But when that user clicks on that ad, it's going to say, okay, to get any more information, I need you to fill out your name, your email, and your phone number. And because Facebook has all your personal information anyways, because you've given it to them in many different forms, whether or not you realize it, Facebook's going to say, fill this out. Oh, by the way, we pre-filled it for you. So just make sure this is correct. Make sure, Wendy, that your name, your first name, your last name, your email, and your phone number is correct. You look at it and you're like, damn, that's creepy. But yes, I really want to see this picture of this house. You click submit. Then as soon as they click submit, that's when that user actually becomes a lead. Because now, Wendy hit submit on that form. I gave her the information she came looking for, which in our case is most likely going to be information about a home for sale. And then in exchange for that, I get her hopefully correct name, email, and phone number. So that's all we're doing. We're putting up ads using Facebook's algorithm. We're dropping a little lead form in the middle there to say, hey, I need your information if we're going to move on. And then we collect those leads. Now, where a lot of people will not necessarily make a mistake, because it's not always a mistake to do this, but they're like, man, I ran this ad, but I didn't get any leads. They probably didn't have that lead form in place, right? They probably didn't have something actually stopping the user from getting the information. Like with realtors, a lot of times we'll see them say, hey, I listed this new house, and they use Zillow. They use a Zillow website. Like they just took the Zillow ad and posted it on Facebook. They're like, I listed this. And that's not super helpful. Like that's great for Zillow. It's not great for you. Even if I put a link to the listing on my own website, if I don't have something to capture their information first, they're getting the information, and that's good. Like because it's getting my listing out in front of more people. It's also it's marketing myself as a producing agent in the area. It's getting that listing out there. But what I'm doing these ads for is collecting leads, right? Like I hate cold calling people. It's like my least favorite thing. When you have, it's always a balance. You have more time or more money. This is one where you have a little bit more money. You have some money to spend on this. And if you're brand new and you don't have the money to spend on this, like that's where let's go do open houses. Let's go door knocking. Let's do circle prospecting, something else. Get one deal done, and then we'll switch back over to this. And what we're really going to talk about today is how to actually build this into a system where you're going to be spending, it's really about $5,000, but several $100s every month in order to get this running. Don't do this if you're a brand new agent, but do pay attention because there's pieces of it that you can use. All right, so let's do some math. So we've got, and like I said, this is specifically for the Bay Area. So we're saying that let's say the average cost per Facebook lead, and we're going to qualify a lead as a name, an email, and a phone number. At first, we're not even super concerned if it's accurate information. Just we had a lead come in, we're going to call that $5. In reality, in the Bay Area, I'm seeing less than $5 every time we're running these. We're seeing between 2 and 5. It's really sitting around $3 or so. Every now and then I can get something to come in below $2, but it's becoming more and more rare as more people get onto the platform. But so if we're going to say the average is between 2 and 5, let's just use 5, right? Let's plan higher, and if we end up getting more leads for less money, even better. Now, percent of leads that turn into a closed unit, right? Because we've got to get them through a whole funnel. They're a lead, then they're a nurture, then they're, after we nurture them, we get the appointment, then they ghost us for a while, right? Like a lot of them, it's going to take some time to get down there. But let's assume that even just 1%, if even 1% of these leads turn into what we'll call right now business, if 1% of these leads are the people that are like, you know what, yes, I am actually actively looking for a home. I'm qualified and I'm motivated. Okay, great. Let's call it 1%. Really, again, we kind of see between 1 and 3%. It'll depend on what weekend you happen to run it, right? Like, guess what? When we get around election time, ad cost goes up, percentages of conversion rates go down. It just kind of varies. That's why we want to make a system of this, of doing it over the year. But let's say if the average is really more like 2 to 3%, let's just plan low. again, maybe we get a higher conversion rate, we're happy with that, but let's plan on the low end and say that even just 1% of them are going to convert. And then let's say that the average commission is $25,000. That's on my side of the Bay Area. In Fremont, we see, but even then, like our prices have gone up so much in a year. That's assuming $1 million price point. Some of these leads are going to be just like any of your buyers, right? Some are going to be looking for 1-bedroom condos, and some, I personally know someone who got a $10 million top of the line cash buyer through internet ads, like through an internet lead, right? So they're going to run the whole gamut, but let's even just say an average commission rate or an average commission per closing of $25,000. Again, let's kind of just plan for the average or lower, just makes it easier. It's like setting a low bar of expectations. It's essentially what we're doing. So if we had that $5 per lead and a 1% conversion rate, we know it's costing us about $500 per closed unit, right? So how many people have looked at Zillow's cost lately? It's ridiculous, right? Like in our area, I recently, talked to Zillow. Like I'd want to keep up with who's doing what. There were only a couple of zip codes available anywhere near me, and one of those zip codes was $6,000 a month, and you get a handful of leads. That's not even guaranteeing any closings, right? But if we know, just using this math, if we can go with a $500 per closed unit, we're doing much better than that route. And I mean, now Zillow's moving to Zillow Flex. You have Redfin Premier Part, or it's not Premier Partners, forget what they're called. But you've got Redfin doing theirs, whatever theirs was called. Those are all based off of like a 30% or so referral fee. So if I have to pay 30% of my $25,000 commission, again, that's a massive amount compared to what we could do for just $500 per closed unit. So if each unit closed is about 25,000 in GCI, 8 units, there's 200 grand GCI for the year. So can I at least get someone to agree this math actually mathematically makes sense? We just have to figure out how to apply it, right? Like I'm really bad at math, but I think I got these numbers right. Okay. So now we just have to figure out, okay, how do we get that number of leads that we need? How do we start bringing those people into our web? Okay. All right. Oh, forgot one last thing. So using all that math, it ends up being that 4,000 in ad spend can equal 200,000 in GCI, right? I just saw that pop up. I didn't see you said it. Yeah, Derek, exactly. Spend 4,000 to GCI 200. You're doing pretty dang good, right? Like we're pretty happy about that. Now look at this little caveat I put in there, because you always have to have a caveat, right? This says that when the ads are run correctly, consistently over time, and the leads are contacted immediately. I hate that I put that word in there, but contacted immediately and followed up with using a set schedule and follow-up plan by you or a designated representative. Like I put that in there as a joke, but really it's going back to the idea of we actually have to follow up with these. Like this isn't going to be the easiest thing in the world. And if you've ever taken KW's course Bold, you know this saying is, and I mean, it's not just with KW, but success is simple, it's not easy, right? So this is simple. Run this play. Bring in this many leads at this much money, create this much GCI. But now the not easy part is the doing it consistently over time, right? Like how many people have gotten business in their pipeline and then just got busy and you forgot to follow up with someone, and then you're like, oh, and then they go follow up with them and it turns out they sold with someone else, or even worse, you're driving down the street and you see the house listed and it's not your sign sitting there in the driveway, right? Ooh, can you still hear me? Okay, good. Sorry, my phone rang, and when my phone rings, my microphone tries to jump over, so I'm glad it's still working. So it's not easy in the sense of having to do this over time, not getting distracted. Agents love to be like, Well, that didn't work for a month, so now I'm going to go do the golden letter campaign, and I'm going to spend, $1,000 doing these golden letters, and then that doesn't work. And the Safeway rep, you ever talk to the Safeway rep about getting your sign on the shopping carts? Then they call you, and then you gotta go spend your money there. Doing any one thing is going to work over time when you have a system and a model that you're following. All right, so this is going to be like the actual playbook itself, as far as this is what we're breaking down. I also want to say, if this gets like too top level for you, like if you end up having a ton of questions at the end, I'm super reachable. Like, I have my contact information at the end. I'd love to sit down with you and, jump on Zoom with you and kind of break this down for you more specifically if this gets a little confusing. All right, so here's basically what we're going to do. One ad per week. So step one is just running the ads, right? So we're going to run one ad a week, and we're going to do it over 40 weeks. Now, it's kind of convenient that to get to this GCI or number of closings, we only need 40 weeks, because then that gives us some slippage, right? It gives us, oh man, I forgot to run my ad this week because there were just no good listings. Inventory sucks, or I don't want to run one over Christmas. Hint, I would run one over Christmas. Might as well. But this gives us a little leeway in it. And then we're going to do $20 a day over 5 days. And you'll have agents a lot of times say, no, I've heard you should run them for 10 days, 15 days, 30 days. Yes, sometimes I will want to run ads that long, but they're different ads. For these ads specifically, I'm talking 5 days, maybe 6, right? Like if I know I can get it out a little bit earlier, maybe I'll do it 6. But the key is spending $100 a week for the most part. Sometimes I'll tweak these numbers. Like I used to always do like $10 a day, up to 20, it gets fine. I'll see some people though then try to just be like, I just want a whole bunch of leads, and they dump like $100 a day over 5 days, so it's $500. It doesn't. There's a diminishing return, like where the lines cross in there. But if we start here as a good baseline, it works out pretty well. We're going to use a just listed ad, which is, I'll show you on the next page what that's going to look like. And then this is where people, they like to take something really simple and make it complicated. We're going to use a 15-mile radius around the listing, and that's it. Now with Facebook, even with the HUD lawsuit and everything that they went through before, we can still narrow it down. And you see people say, okay, well, I want to narrow it down to people who are interested in HGTV, because those people are interested in homes. And if those people are interested in homes, right, they go down this whole path. I literally just want to draw a 15-mile circle around where that listing is. And that's good enough for me. And some people want to make it smaller. Well, guess what? Facebook changed that after their lawsuit. You can't make it smaller anymore. But I don't, for these types of ads, I don't like getting too narrow. I want to do what we call casting a really wide net, and we'll talk about why on the very last slide. But we want to just cast a wide net. Let's get everybody in there, everybody in our net, so that we can talk to anybody. Like, I want to talk to anybody and everybody about housing. And some of them are going to turn into nothing, and some are going to be great. And then don't forget the Facebook lead form. If you're using KW Command to create your ads, there's a very simple button. If you're doing it in the Facebook Ads Manager, it's actually really simple now. You just say, you just tell it, I want to do lead generation, and it'll say create a little thing, and you just want name, email, phone number. Makes it super simple. But again, if you don't use that lead form, when you're running the ad, you're going to start wondering, why am I spending this money? It's showing people are looking at the ad. It's showing people are clicking on the ad, but I'm getting no leads. 9 times out of 10, maybe even more. Call it 99 out of 100 times that I see people say I'm not getting any leads. It's because they didn't choose that lead form. But that's super important in this. Actually, okay. I want to skip to this one slide real quick, then we'll go back to what the ad looks like. I get this so many times but what about seller leads? Like, Jason, I have 15 buyers. I'm sick of buyers. Have you asked every single one of those buyers if they have a home to sell? Right? Because statistically, something shifted in 2020. So right at the beginning of 2020, it was 1 in 8 buyer leads, and this was collected through a let's just call it a large aggregator of leads. But 1 in 8 of the buyer leads that they saw had a home to sell before they could buy, right? So they had to sell the home to buy, or they were, maybe they didn't have to, but they were selling a home in order to buy another. And then in 2021, that dropped to just 1 in 3 buyer leads has a home to sell first. Now, that actually kind of makes sense to us because we also know about 1 in 3 buyers is a first time home buyer. So 1 in 3 are first time home buyers, 1 in 3 are home buyers or home sellers. Man, I said that backwards. They are home buyers that have to sell first. And then the other 3 are, or the other third are buyers that might own a home and don't need to sell their current home, or maybe they're buying a second home, right? In our area, we don't see, I don't feel like we see that many second homes. We see a little bit more of them maybe cashing out some refi money to go buy a second home elsewhere. Or this is like the neighborhood I lived in, this is their second home. But that was a pretty small area. This is also why we want to cast a really wide net, right? Like if I'm telling Facebook I want a smaller and smaller group of people, I might be filtering out those sellers by accident, and I don't want to do that. Another thing with running seller-oriented ads, like especially ones that are like, oh, like get your home's value here. There's just going to be fewer people interested in clicking that, and I'll show you why on the next slide. But that when you have fewer people clicking on the ad, the cost goes up, the quantity goes down, but the quality goes up, right? And so, I might end up having to spend, if I spend like $20, $30, $40 for a single seller lead, okay, that's great. But at the same time, I would have rather spent $5 per lead on a whole bunch of buyers and found the sellers in there as well. And then Derek, perfect comment there in the chat about if they want to cash out and stretch their money, he'd be happy to accept any referrals in the Chico area. We do have people moving up there, right? We have a whole bunch moving to Sacramento, Chico, Reno, kind of where can you get where you're not too far away so that they can still commute a couple times a week or a month. But that last line there, this is what kind of cracks me up sometimes when people are like, I just don't need any more buyer leads. What if I could tell you you need more quality buyer leads? And what if you or someone else kind of picked through these, someone else on your team picked through these first and found only keep the cash buyers, or only keep the highly qualified, highly motivated buyers that are specifically buying somewhere where you are anyways, or where your listings are, and then refer the rest out. Okay. If I can refer it out for, 25% of, call it $20,000, it's $5,000 in my pocket. I already paid back my ad spend for the entire year with one referral. So I'm doing pretty well. Like then now you're net zero. Now we just build off of that or build up from there. But yeah, like don't be afraid to refer them out. We know, like, and when I just said 25% referral fee, we know agents are willing to pay Zillow, Redfin, all these different referral companies 30 to 35%. So if I call Derek and say, hey Derek, good news, I got this buyer. I just talked to them. They're qualified, they're motivated, they're ready to go. They're just not in my area. Like I don't have the capacity to take on another buyer. I want to send them to you. They're ready to meet. Can I get 35%? Derek, now, if he's a good negotiator, he'll say no. And maybe he'll say, no, I want 30% instead of 35, but still, like, up that number. Or find a referral partner friend where I say, hey, any leads that I get out of this that I don't want, I'm going to give them exclusively to you, and I want 35% instead of 25. But do it however you want, or give them away for free. Be benevolent. But either way, don't be afraid of too many leads. No, you don't. There's no such thing. Well, yes and no. We'll get to that. So this is what I call a just listed ad, right? So this is the exact ads that I run almost every time. They look just like this, or some variation of this. I got my information at the top. It says, I want to make this very easy to read. Sometimes if you use a system that links to the MLS, it automatically is going to take your whole MLS listing description and just slap it there. And it's like, I don't want that. Like, think of it this way. You're sitting there on Facebook, you, the user, even as a realtor, you're sitting there on Facebook, you're scrolling through. If you come across something that's a giant block of text and kind of an ugly picture, you're just going to keep scrolling, right? We don't want that. We don't want you to keep scrolling. I want you to click that thing at the bottom and give me your information, right? So I break it up with emojis. They're super simple to do. I give some of the information. That's the next point on there. Don't give away all the details. Um, what information am I leaving out there? Right? I'm giving them bedroom, bathroom, square footage. I said it's in the redwoods, but that's not super specific. That'd be kind of hard to find if I'm, I don't even know what state it's in at this point, right? So I'm not giving them. You can actually see right there where it says click to learn more for the price, or click learn more for the price, the address, and 40 plus photos, right? So I'm giving them a few photos and super eye catching photos. Like in this one, I think, these photos make me want to click on it. This is a house I'd want to see, but I'm not giving them the price or the address, right? Because as soon as I kind of give them all the information, they have no reason to click other than the photos. And if I give them the address, then they just pop up Zillow on their phone and they use that instead. I don't really want that. At the bottom there, you can see it says a clear call to action. Tells them exactly what to do. So see how it says click learn more for price, address, and 40 plus photos. You can't see it on here, but the button right there would actually say learn more. Sometimes it'll say like sign up, or like whatever I'm making that button say, I want the call to action to be the exact same thing. I don't want to be rude about people on the internet, but sometimes you just have to tell them exactly what to do and they're going to do it. Right? It's called a call to action for a reason. We're getting them to do something. And then, like I said, eye-catching photos. Now, ironically, the best performing ad I've ever run in 5 or 6 years, we actually used kind of terrible photos. And we think what happened was it was a gorgeous house, but the photos were taken just with a phone. They weren't professional photos. So they kind of looked dark and the lights were off. Like it didn't look very good. And we think what happened was people thought, okay, I'm going to get a deal on this house because it's a piece of crap. Well, no, it was a great house and it sold like 100 grand over asking, right? Like at a $500,000 price point. Like, but we got so many people clicking on it, maybe because it felt more attainable. So you can try different things. I just tend to I need something eye grabbing, because if they are scrolling through looking at cat videos and pictures of their grandkids, I need something to grab their attention. Video also works great. We're just not talking about it in this just because I haven't run that many video ads, but it also works great. Seller leads we talked about. All right, so this part is where I wouldn't say it gets tricky, but it's a little bit, this is what's going to make or break you. Let's assume you use the lead form, this is the next kind of tripping point, is the follow-up, right? So there's the saying, the fortune is in the follow-up. Just like everything, I mean, that's sales in general, and that's this as well. If you think you're going to do enough follow up on your own, you're probably wrong, right? Like, I don't mean to be rude. I don't mean to knock anybody down. Just mean to say I'm the same way. That if I have to manually follow up with every lead I have effectively, I'm not going to do it. Like, I just know me. I'm going to move on. Like I said, go buy Safeway shopping cart ads or something. Like, I'm going to get distracted. So what we need to do is leverage technology, and most CRMs will allow you to schedule this follow-up. I would argue if you have a CRM that does not allow you to schedule this follow-up, you may not have a CRM, right? Like you may need to invest in something else. And part of my job as a team leader, I'm growing our office by recruiting agents. And when I talk to some agents and I'll say, oh, what do you have? Like, what do you use a CRM? And they so often I just use my phone. Like everything I need is in here, all the phone numbers. It's like, okay, but the phone is not, I can set some reminders to follow up with people, but if I had as many reminders in my phone as I could have in my CRM, I'd be going insane, right? So what we want to use is a CRM that's going to allow us to auto schedule some emails, but maybe it'll auto schedule some text to go out on my behalf. But more importantly, it's going to remind me when to call those people again, right? So this is marketing 101 in general. This isn't even just real estate, but it also applies. It takes an average of 7 attempts to get to someone before they pick up the phone. right? So on average, I'm not looking at the participants, so I don't know if he's on here. I was talking to one of our agents yesterday. It's like, I've tried to call that guy 3 times. He didn't answer. Great. 4 more to go. You're not even halfway there. Right. And it's like, it takes on average 7 attempts to get a hold of someone. Right. So that means some people you call, they pick up right away. And some people you're going to have to call 10, 12 times. You have a lot of contact attempts. That's why, and let's say you brought in 50 leads in a weekend, and now over the next, 8 weeks, I need to call them 8 times. It's going to get pretty hairy. And I don't want to do that. And then we like to use a combo of dynamic follow up, meaning that they're getting emails that are like neighborhood updates. Like think of the emails you get from Zillow. If you haven't signed up on Zillow, you might as well and see what your clients are or what your leads are getting. I think I'm on 5 different zip codes for Zillow, so I just get emails. Hey, here's actually Derek. I have one for Chico. I looked at property in Chico once, and Zillow's like, "Oh, you must like Chico." So I get Chico updates once a month, for one of the zip codes up there. Um, but it's like something where it's sending an email that's custom every time it sends it out, but that it's making it up. Hey, here's what's going on in the neighborhood. Here's your home prices, etc. And then something more static. Maybe it's here's something I offer. Here's my unique value proposition as a realtor. Here's home tip or home buying and selling tips. I'm not a fan of the hey, just so you know, roll your clock back. Like I don't love those emails. I do like holiday ones. Lunar New Year right now, send those out. But you're going to want a mix of those, throw in some text. You have to have phone calls though, for the most part. I mean, honestly, you could do this all email, just your conversion rate's going to go down. But get some phone calls in there as well. And then this is, okay, so if you're with KW, here's one little piece for you. If you're not, just kind of pay attention. And then you can forget about this in a moment if you want. So built into Command, you can have all this auto triggered. You can go find that smart plan right there, the Tyler Shields Facebook plan, or search for my name as the author. You can load that in there, have your Twilio account set up to it so it'll send out the text for you automatically, assign them to a neighborhood nurture. Basically, this whole last slide right before that is automated when you plug it in right there. So screenshot this or watch the recording later. Just apply those things and it'll essentially kind of do it for you. It'll tell you when it's time to call those people again. Okay, that's it for specific KW things. Except for one line on here I just noticed. All right, so then step 1 was run the ads. Step 2 was make sure that you have automated follow-up systems. And then step 3 is actually doing the follow-up, right? So there's this study that has gone around forever at this point. It was either Harvard or MIT or one of those big brain schools where they did a study to say on average you have 4 minutes to follow up with a lead. Honestly, it's easier for me to remember 5 because I have 5 fingers. So I want to call these leads within 5 minutes when I'm able. Now, here's the thing. Let's say you set up this ad to run for 5 days, right? You're running this ad over 5 days. These leads, you'll be sitting at your desk doing nothing, twiddling your thumbs, trying to figure out what to do. That's not when the leads come in. The leads will come in when you're driving. Facebook knows where you are. So it waits till you're driving. It waits till you're in the shower. It waits till you're at a movie theater and can't answer your phone. It waits till you're at your kid's soccer game. Somehow it knows whenever is most convenient to talk to these people, it has you try to talk to these people. And that kind of sucks. But when you are able, like if you're just sitting there not doing anything and a lead comes in, pick it up and call them, right? Or shoot them a text. Picking up and calling them honestly seems, I don't have data to back this up, but it seems to be on the downward slide, right? Because not everyone is on the internet clicking around and expecting someone to call them. Like some people are. Derek, I see your question. I'll get to you in a minute. Some people don't mind if you pick up and call. We are seeing a lot more response through text, though. So if you can at least get a text out in the first 5 minutes, like fantastic. Derek, what was your question about the smart plan?
Yeah, so you were talking about we obviously shouldn't replace a phone call.
Mhm.
Uh, the smart plan that you suggested, there's no phone calls. So where would
Oh,
you suggest
hmm.
is the best place to insert the phone call?
So the reason that is because I once changed, like I forgot that I changed that smart plan to have no phones on it. I think I have one private that I haven't now published. I think it's in my private library, so I'll go publish that. So there's a no phone and a phone option. But basically, think of it this way: call them once a week, right? Like if I can call them once a week for 8 weeks, you're doing pretty well. And we call it, in our company, we call it like an 8 by 8, but really it's just something consistent to say, hey, I'm still here, I'm still here. If you can maybe even alternate it, send a text or, give them a call, send a text, give them a call, send a text. It's one of those things, kind of don't overthink it, just kind of reach out to them. But that is a good note, and I'll write that down to remember to go update that so that's in there. But you do want a combination: calls, texts, emails. And I've heard some objection to, oh my god, but what if someone then is like, you called me, you texted me, and you emailed me, I'm mad about it, which I've never actually heard someone upset about, but I hear agents with that objection, not clients. It's like, oh well, I just didn't know how to best get a hold of you. What's the best way? Clearly it's a phone because you answered, right? Or they say, no, please. I do get this one sometimes. Don't call me during the day. I'm at work. I prefer you to text me. Okay. Sounds good. Make a note in your CRM. Do not call this person at work. Text. I love texting. It makes me way happier. So I want them to tell me to text them. And honestly, and then Derek says I get a lot of how did you get my info? All the time I get that one, right? Like, no, no, I didn't. This is my favorite one. I call them. They say, yeah, like, why are you calling me? Oh, you signed up on my website, sfahouses.com. You were interested in this house on 123 Main Street. They're like, no, I wasn't. Or I said you found it on Facebook and 123 Main Street. They're like, no, I wasn't. I'm like, oh, that's weird. Is this Kyle? He's like, yeah. And did I call 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9? He's like, yeah. Oh, weird. Man, I don't know how I got your accurate information. And then it's like, oh well, my mistake. Like, I'm gonna go then. And it's like, wait, hold on, what about that house? Like, oh, so you are interested in the house. Like, you're a liar. Right? Like, come on, man. Or we recently did one like as a test in front of a new agent that didn't believe us that this was going to work. And I had someone that does this for a living. Like, he's an ISA. He calls people for a living. He said, give me that lead right there. Gave him that lead. He called him. They're like, oh no, I don't remember clicking on anything like that. He goes, oh, okay. So you're not looking for a house in Fremont then? So no, we are. Like, oh, okay. Are you working with an agent? No. Oh, how do you look for houses? On websites. Oh, so like my website. Weird. Set an appointment. 2-minute phone call. Set an appointment because she said, "Oh no, how did you get my info? No, I couldn't have done that." All he did was ask one question. Oh, so you're not looking for a home? No, I am. Okay, great. Anyways, that was a nice little rabbit hole. Um, converse with the leads through Twilio. Change Twilio word to just text. I like texting with them, right? Like, I send them emails, I send them texts. When they respond to me, I have conversations with them. Then that's when I'm trying to hook them to get on the phone. 1 to 3%, we threw out that number before. Those are the leads that are going to convert in the first 30 days. Now, one thing that's changed about this number is that they might be well qualified, they might be motivated, and there's just not enough houses for sale, right? So that 30 days, or the way I'm going to now kind of reword this one is 1 to 3% of those leads are able to convert in the first 30 days. Doesn't mean they necessarily will. And that's just kind of the market at the moment. It's tough, right? Like, I've got people in my office writing three, four, $500,000 over asking and losing, getting rid of contingencies and losing. Like, there's not enough homes available. So give me a little leeway on that 30 days. Let's call it maybe 90 days, right? It kind of depends on how well you're writing offers and how many they're writing. But that means that the other 97%, they're going to convert on an average of 18 months. Yeah, obviously some are never going to convert at all. A good chunk of them may never convert at all. But the follow-up time on these, after that first batch that you try to find in the first 30 days, or in those first 7 phone calls, After that, it's 18 months. It's a long-term game. So earlier we talked about Zillow Flex, which is Zillow charging, 30, 35% or so. It varies a little bit, but them charging a flat fee for these leads, all Zillow has done with those leads is warmed them up with emails that they've warmed them up over the last 18 months, right? They've dripped on them with emails and value and trying to get them in there. And then they convert 18 months, 12 to 18 months later. That's when Zillow is selling them to you. So again, right there, the portions and the follow up. And it's a long term game. Now, at the same time, I paid $5 for the lead, let's say, between $3 and $5 for the lead. It doesn't cost me anything to follow up with them. I could pay someone. I could pay a virtual assistant based in another country $1,500 a month to call these for me, right? Like I could do that and make it even easier if I had the money. But the follow up, the initial acquisition of $2 to $5 is that's your cost. The follow up is free. It's just time consuming, and honestly, it'll beat you up a little bit. Like let's be real, like calling 20 leads a day, forever. It gets a little tiring, but there's a lot of reward at the end of the rainbow when you're able to. All right, so common acronym: keep it simple, stupid, or keep it simple, silly, or whatever nice word we want to plug in there. Number one is just don't overthink this thing, right? Like just kind of go do it. Now don't go blowing all your money on it. Don't like just go throw a ton of money at it. We talk a lot about models and systems. This is a model for a system that works. Try it. Try it for a month. Run the first 4 ads. If in those first four, you run the first ad, maybe you get a few leads and you're like, oh, they sucked, or none of them picked up, none of them were ready right now. Then run it again, but at least you got the leads. Then run it again, because if you get the leads, it means you set it up right. Then run it again and do it again, do it again. Try it for a month. We talk a lot about, it's called red light, green light, right? It's do it for a while. If it isn't working, if you're just not getting leads or you don't like it, then after a few times, let's change it. That's where we hit the red light and say, okay, something's wrong. Maybe I'm running these ads incorrectly. Maybe I'm following up incorrectly, all sorts of different things. But if all of a sudden I'm setting appointments, I'm talking to these people, I'm setting appointments, that's green light. Hit that gas, keep going, right? Like let's in some ways, if you get conversion, then let's maybe increase that ad spend, to a certain point. You're just going to have to kind of try it. But that's why I say run the play, follow up with the leads. It's really that simple. Cast a wide net to capture as many leads as possible and automate your follow up. So on the left hand side there, this is straight out of the Millionaire Real Estate Agent. It's pretty much known as the man, I can't say that word, industry standard as far as like building a my God, I'm going to have to end this soon if I can't talk. A blueprint around your real estate business, right? But the highlighted parts in there. High conversion rates will allow you to generate the same income from fewer leads than if you had lower conversion rate. Obviously, high conversion rate, good. But a lower conversion rate can be just as effective if you can amass a great number of leads. And that's where this starts to turn into the quality is in the quantity, right? So I can go spend a lot of money, like these 30%. I mean, right now, like kind of a little rabbit hole here. It's tax season, right? We just issued 1099s to agents. I'm getting calls from my agents and other agents that are like, wait, why do these numbers not line up with what I thought I made? And a lot of them are forgetting that they paid 25 to 35% referral fees on like half of their business, right? That's a lot of money going out the door. Now they're looking at their P&Ls and saying, oh crap. Whereas if I would have spent less money on a higher quantity of leads, I would have found the quality in there as well. So it's just a different game. You can pay a lot of money for the perceived quality, or we can create that quality over time. That bottom quote there, our experience working with top agents has taught us that even as important as your look and message are, there is a much stronger correlation between sales leads generated and the consistency and frequency of your message. Consistency and frequency. So to me, that's having the system and doing it over time. If you took $4,000 right now and said, I'm going to put all $4,000 into this 1 month of collecting leads, it would not be as effective as if you said, I'm going to spend, was that $320 or whatever a month over a year, right? It's going to be less effective because we can't just kind of go buy the business, or you can, but it's going to cost you 20-30%. Make sense? So the quality is actually in the quantity of leads that you gather. So what questions do you have? And maybe you don't have any because that was kind of a lot of information crammed into about 50 minutes. But does anyone have like any burning questions about it at all? Cool. That means either did a terrible job explaining it, explained it too fast, or did a great job explaining it. Here's all my contact info. That's my cell phone. You can text me. I put on there, I love texts. You can call me. It's kind of hard. Like I said, someone called me while we were sitting here. I'm on Zoom a lot, on Zoom or in appointments a lot these days, but I love texts. Like, feel free to text me, even if you just want to shoot me your number right now and put you in my phone and tell me where you work as like a referral partner. That's cool too. There's my email. You can also try email me. That gets tricky sometimes because I get a lot of emails. Website on there. My website, I just started this thing. It's a simple little website, but I started putting books that I like on there. If you want book recommendations, like I said, my newsletter that I never update is right there at bit.ly/Jason the Flynn email. You can sign up there, and I have like a YouTube. I just don't know the link to it or anything, with a few things in there.
Uh,
Cool.
I have a
can,
burning question.
mm,
Did you plan your
You go.
wardrobe with your headshot?
Ooh, no. That's a good one, though. I don't even know where that jacket is. So, no, I basically have my 10 KW shirts basically that I just cycle through. And I only have to laundry every 2 weeks. Pretty good. Nima.
yeah. Uh, is lead form available in Facebook or
Yeah.
okay?
Yeah. The a video I have on YouTube does it specifically within command. I need to shoot one about, or record one about, how to do it in Facebook directly. The problem was I hadn't done it in so long that I was afraid, like, I wouldn't even be able to do it, because Facebook loves changing, not the entire system, but they love changing menu items and where things are all the time. It's kind of irritating. It can be a little complicated, but basically, if you go in there, especially if you already know how to make Facebook ads in Facebook Ads Manager, just look for the lead generation option, and then it'll say. Now, one thing that I guarantee I'll see some agents do is that they're going to try to collect name, email, phone number, fill out this little thing, do this, do this, do this. Mm-mm. People don't want to fill out all that when they're on their phone. They want to fill out their name and their email. They don't even really want to put their phone number. But just name, email, phone number, make it simple. And when that lead form does come up, they have a chance to change it. So I still get all those super nice ones that are like, go do inappropriate things to yourself at inappropriateword.com, right? Like, I still get all those. It's not that often, honestly. I get, two or three an ad. Not even that. I bet one or two an ad. It's not even that bad. Yeah.
So on that,
Mhm.
Facebook actually just changed it, and I only found out because I
Oh
filled
no.
out false information.
Oh.
It saves it for the next form it doesn't revert back to your actual name and phone number and email. It saves whatever you changed.
Interesting.
That was a bit embarrassing. It wasn't super inappropriate, but it was a bit embarrassing when I went to the next one and didn't read it. So just a heads
See,
up on that.
so you're the one putting embarrassing information on it, or mean information on it. I
Yes, I'm stealing
had a
all
real
of your
creative
ad
one.
spend money.
Yeah, I had a real creative one the other day. It was great. The good news is, like, let's say, uh, like, that's almost more important. There is a ad spend category where you could say, every time, like, if you're paying per click, cost per click, right? In theory, someone could go mess with you, and you could generate a whole bunch of clicks without any attention. I'm just telling Facebook, I want to spend this many dollars per day. So if 100 people go fill out that form in a day, I still only spent $20. If one person fills out that form in a day, I spent $20. So it's kind of like, it's like no one can mess with you. Like, it's like, okay, great. The only thing that messes with me, the only thing that sucks then is when you have too much automation sometimes and the automated email or the automated text goes out and it's like, hey, ass face. You're like, damn it. like it did not catch it. But
We had that
I've
happen to an
only,
agent here with Twilio.
yeah,
It sent out the
yeah,
text with a very inappropriate name because that's what they had written, and the person texted back irate, and then
yeah. It's
they
like,
figured
you
out what
did this.
happened and laughed.
Yeah, it's
But
like you
it
did this.
was
And guess what? Just like door knocking, just like cold calling, just like any lead generation source where someone is bound to be mad at that out there, it happens. Right? Get people, I did not give you permission to call me. Why did you call me? Guess what? When you use the Facebook lead generation form, it tells you someone's allowed to call you. So it's kind of the same thing. Just, oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to bother you. I'll take you off my list. Have a great day. Bye. I've only had one person ever that kind of persistently keeps coming back. And it's like, ugh. We have one right now in the office that he likes to keep coming back, trying to threaten us about something. I don't even know what. So cool. All right. Like I said, there's my contact info though. I think Zoom is automatically going to send this recording to you, but if not, I will send it to everyone that registered probably tomorrow. I know myself. I actually have to go do my lead gen now, so I'm going to be busy for the next couple hours. But I will get this video out to you guys, and I hope this at least sheds some good information for you.
Yeah, of course. Thank you. Your voice is breaking up, Jason.
Uh-oh. Okay, well then I'm going to go.
Yeah.
Okay, bye.
Thank you.